The lie that keeps you from changing your life? There's a sentence you've whispered to yourself more times than you can count. Sometimes quietly, sometimes disguised as logic, sometimes dressed up as patience or realism. It sounds reasonable. It sounds mature. It even sounds why. But it is the lie that keeps your life exactly where it is. And the most dangerous thing about it is that you don't recognize it as a lie. You tell yourself you'll change when things calm down, when you have more time, when you feel more confident, when you finally feel ready. Think about this for a moment. How many years have passed with that same sentence playing in the background of your mind? How many versions of you have quietly faded away while you were waiting for the right moment? But here's what no one tells you. The right moment does not arrive. It is created. And the lie that keeps you from changing your life is not that you can't change. It's that you believe you need permission. Carl Jung understood this deeply. He believed that most people live not from their true self, but from a carefully constructed persona, a mask shaped by expectations, fears, and social survival. And that mask is very convincing. It tells you, this is just who I am. This is how life works. This is realistic. But Jung warned that when the unconscious is ignored, it doesn't disappear. It controls us. So your unexpressed potential doesn't rest quietly. It turns into anxiety, restlessness, a vague sense that something is missing. That quiet dissatisfaction you feel at night, that's not laziness. That's your unrealized life knocking from the inside. Now ask yourself honestly, if nothing changed for the next 5 years, would that be okay? Or does something inside you tighten when you imagine it? Friedrich Nietzsche believed that the greatest danger to a human being is not suffering, but comfort without meaning. He warned that people would rather cling to familiar pain than face the responsibility of transformation. Because transformation demands something terrifying, you can no longer blame circumstances. You can no longer hide behind identity. You must become accountable for the direction of your life. And so the mind creates a lie that feels safe. I'm not ready yet. Napoleon Hill approached this from a different angle. He studied thousands of successful individuals and noticed something unsettling. None of them waited until they felt ready. They moved while afraid. They acted while uncertain. They decided before confidence arrived. Hill concluded that hesitation is not a lack of ability. It is a habit of thought, a mental program reinforced by fear and repetition. In other words, the lie is learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. But here's the deeper truth beneath all of this. Most people don't fail to change because they lack discipline. They fail because they mistake clarity for a prerequisite. They believe they must understand their path before they walk it. But Viktor Frankl discovered something radically different while imprisoned in concentration camps, stripped of freedom, dignity, and certainty. He observed that meaning does not come from knowing the future. Meaning comes from choosing one's attitude in the present. He realized that even in the most brutal conditions, humans retained one freedom, the freedom to choose how they respond. So, ask yourself, if meaning can be chosen in suffering, why do you believe you need comfort to change? Why do you believe safety must come before growth? Alan Watts would say, it's because we misunderstand ourselves. He taught that the ego is a story we repeat, a mental image we defend. And that story hates uncertainty. It craves control, predictability, guarantees. But life offers none of those. So, the ego negotiates, not now, later, soon. And years pass. Think about this for a moment. What if the lie is not that change is hard? What if the lie is that staying the same is neutral because it isn't? Stagnation is not rest. It is slow decay. Carl Jung believed that life demands development. And when we resist it, the psyche suffers. Depression is often not a chemical imbalance. It is a life imbalance, a signal that something essential is being ignored. A call toward wholeness. But instead of listening, we numb. We distract. We intellectualize. We wait, and the lie grows stronger. This is just how things are. But that sentence has quietly destroyed more lives than failure ever could, because failure teaches. Waiting teaches nothing. Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. But most people are taught to fear their chaos, to suppress italiano, to medicate italiano, to label it as a flaw, when in truth it is often the energy of transformation trying to move. Now, here's where everything shifts. The lie that keeps you from changing your life survives only in the dark. It loses power the moment you see it clearly. Because the truth is this: you don't change when you feel ready. You feel ready after you change. Confidence is not the cause of action. It is the result. Napoleon Hill called this the paradox of initiative, that action precedes belief. And once you act, the mind reorganizes itself to support the new behavior, which means your hesitation is not wisdom. It's protection. Protection of an identity that no longer fits. Alan Watts would gently remind you that you are not a fixed thing. You are a process, a movement, a verb, not a noun. So when you say, "This is who I am," you're freezing something that is meant to flow. Think about this for a moment. If a river said, "This is where I stop," it would become a swamp, huh? And so, though, we. Viktor Frankl believed that life asks questions of us, and we answer through action, not contemplation. The question might be uncomfortable. It might arrive disguised as dissatisfaction. But it is always an invitation. The lie is thinking you can ignore the question without consequence, because unanswered questions don't disappear. They turn into regret. Now ask yourself, what truth have you been postponing? What decision have you been avoiding because it threatens your current identity? What version of you is waiting not for permission, but for courage? Carl Jung believed that the shadow, the part of us we avoid, contains not only what we fear, but what we are capable of. So, the very life you're avoiding might be the life that integrates you, the one that makes you whole, the one that finally feels honest. And here's the most hopeful truth of all. You don't need to change everything. You don't need a grand plan. You don't need certainty. You only need to stop repeating the lie that says later. Because later is not a time, it's a defense mechanism. And the moment you stop believing it, something shifts. The future no longer feels like pressure. It feels like possibility. The present no longer feels like a trap. It becomes a doorway. You don't change your life in a single moment. You change it in the moment you stop lying to yourself. And that moment can be now. Quietly, simply, without drama, just honesty. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to Becoming You and keep growing with us. And if you stayed until the end, comment the word truth below and share what part resonated most. Awareness is the beginning of becoming